You've wandered into snarky faith, the place where American Christianity gets skewered, roasted, and served cold. Faith on the fringe, naming what's broken, keeping what matters. Strap in. This is Snarky Faith.
Previously on Snarky Faith.
The resurrected bodies that will never ever die, and we'll sing hallelujah to Jesus and dance with him. And I don't think that we will be washing dishes in heaven.
Welcome again to Snarky Faith. I'm your host, Stuart Deloney, and the world is crazy right now, right? Everything is just bonkers. It's topsy-turvy. It kind of feels like a guy who is addicted to Cialis. Everything is up and down and up and down and up and down, and we can't get any kind of stability, which wreaks havoc on a lot of our mental health. Is anyone feeling that? I mean, I'm feeling that. I feel that a lot. And so the good thing today is that we are going to be talking to author Jeremy Steele about his new book, Rituals for Heretics. It is a book that gives us tools to be able to pull outside of the insanity that we're dealing with right now and breathe and realize that there's more to what's happening. But before we get to that goodness, we've got to go. We've got to go, much like Andy Dufresne, climbing all those miles through shit to get to the goodness. Oh, yes, that's right. So before we get to Jeremy Steele, we've got to go through the Christian Crazy of the Week. So here we go.
If loving the Lord is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Lord have mercy. The Lord is my shepherd. He know what I want.
We're going to have a lot to talk about with this one. So just go ahead and buckle up because you're not ready for it. You're not ready, and we'll unpack. We'll do it together as a team, all right? All right.
Big one, guys. This is huge.
It's a big one, guys.
Is she willing to submit to you as the head of the household? Will she respect you? Will she obey you? This is perhaps one of the most important things to probe for whenever you are trying to find a wife.
Okay, first of all, this is my larger question for this. Let's put it aside that dude's cruising for a beard. He needs someone to prop up his faux alpha male, conservative Christian nationalist kind of thing going on here. He's got to prop that up. So he needs someone to sell the image. He needs a beard because let's look at it. Let's look at that mustache. That's not fooling anybody, buddy. You know what it is? I guess it's a shock absorber for when you're gobbling Twinks. But that doesn't sell. That doesn't sell in Christian nationalism. So we have to go into this whole idea of just control women. A good wife is a controllable wife. What is that? Like, why do conservative men even get married besides wanting to just make babies? So I guess you just treat her like an object, not like a partner. Yeah, that seems like a real Christian thing to do. Get a good woman that you can control. Yep. I love this. I love people like this because they will talk ad nauseum about having a biblical worldview and about how they need to have a headship over the family and control this and control that and control everything. It just fascinates me how terrified some men are of women. That they need to be able to force and control and manipulate and talk about it in terms of God, godliness, goodness, being a good Christian. Because this is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. Next. Now we've got Christian nationalist pastor Joel Webbon. This is the funny thing that I find what ends up happening in discourse, because folks will get so angry when you mention that Christian nationalists, they act like they're fascists, or they act like they can seem to have very, let's say, Nazi leanings as well. And people will say, no, Stuart, that's too much. That's way, way, way too much. But is it? Joel, tell us the way that you see the world right now and the way things should be. Because it's going to sound a little World War II-ish. Just see if maybe it's just me. Perhaps it's just me.
You just, like, if you're wondering, what is American politics? It is Jewish supremacy, gay Jews on the left, war Jews on the right. Gay Jews on the left, war Jews on the right. Those are your choices. The only alternative is an American first Christian nationalism. My counsel is we're not playing the game anymore. We're not, well, let's vote for the war Jews so that we don't get the gay Jew. No. Let's vote for America first, Christian nationalist, race realist, patriarchal, and J-pilled. Let's vote for those guys and those guys only, because if that's what we do.
When they tell you who they are, when they tell us who they are, as explicitly as this, we should just believe them. We should believe them. We should believe them that they are that they are fascist. They are racist, and they crave power above everything, and they want to rid the world of people that they don't agree with. I always hate it when people say history repeats itself, but now we've got games with self-awareness. Let's talk about people who have none of that. Let's listen here to Joel Osteen talking about how he lives meagerly. He lives meagerly, and the ministry doesn't even pay his salary. He's such a humble man. Such a humble man.
Where are the Bentleys, the yachts, and the jets? Because this is a big place. I don't know if there's a garage somewhere or some sort of parking spot.
I was gonna love talking to Jake Paul too.
In a ride. In your Bentley after
or the G650.
Yeah, that's right. In my fleet of cars. No, you know what?
My fleet of cars. I don't have that.
People like to make up stuff, but I don't think I've ever sat in a Ferrari. And they show me pictures of me driving Ferraris and fleets of cars, and Joel's got his yachts and jets and stuff, but I never respond to it. I've never.
Wait, so you have no yachts?
I have no yachts.
He's so humble. He's so humble.
You don't even have one jet. I don't have one jet. I've never owned a jet. I've never owned a yacht or, a fleet of cars.
Oh my God, that's just disgusting. And I just love the humble bragging in all of this. Like, oh y'all, I'm just a simple man. All I do is just preach the gospel, tell everyone that they're God's shining little star, and I make a hell of a lot of money off it. I live in a huge mansion. I've got a very high net worth, but you know me, I don't even know what a Bentley is. If you even showed me a Bentley, I'd be like, what is that? And you'd say, it's a car. And he'd be like, I don't even understand what you're talking about. Well, what about this? This is a Lamborghini. I don't even know what that means. Oh, Joel, just a little simpleton. He just loves Jesus. He just loves Jesus. And he also loves rolling in money. I'm so humble. Now we've got Pastor and Ohio County Commissioner Diana Crease talking about, what could she be talking about? Well, in this week's edition of Let's Get Horny for the End Times. I guess I kind of went ahead and spoiled it, so yeah. Let's go ahead and have fun with this one.
This is not just an Iranian strike. This is a network strike. This has ramifications across the Middle East and end time ramifications as well. But this is just, I believe, the beginning of the end. This signifies what we've known has been coming as believers. We see the signs of the times. We've seen the falling away. We've seen church leaders being attacked. We've seen persecution in America of the church that we've never really seen to this degree. And now Iran attacked Israel a year ago. We've seen all of these skirmishes happening, but Iran was never even considered in this debate or war. But if you read Ezekiel 37, you'll see Iran is talked about there, and that Iran comes in on the final scenes toward the end of what we call the beginning of a rapture and the end times, leading to us to the war of Armageddon.
Yay! Destruction of everything. Screw God's creation. I'm going to tell you, that seat that she's sitting in right now, that thing is dripping wet. She is so horny for the end times. It is amazing. And that's what it blows my mind about Christianity, about folks that are like this, that have their heart set on the world ending, people being thrown into judgment forever, and them going off to heaven and being in mansions. They get downright giddy and horny over this. Which tells me one huge thing. They have no idea what it means to be a Christian to begin with. They have no idea what it means to need to love your neighbor, to be able to love your enemy, to be able to be compassionate, to help those that are in need. No. We see a war and we're like, oh, baby, it's going to be a long, steamy night. This is insanity. It is insanity. It is insanity. And it is a worldview that is so incredibly toxic and so devoid of reality and even devoid of Scripture as well, too. When she's trying to knit together these different parts of Scripture to say it means this, it doesn't mean this. It doesn't at all. It is a terrible reading of Scripture. But guess what? The end times aren't a-coming. But folks like this are going to continue to push those end times. And if you ever grew up around this panic behind, ooh, when's God going to return? He's going to come back like a thief in the night. Well, you should check out my book, The Tribulation Survival Guide. How to Stay Alive When Everything Else is Dead. This is satire for the soul. It takes all of these ideas of the end times and it teases them to their logical conclusions. And it gives you a guidebook on how to survive if you're left behind. Next up in our edition of Tell Me You're Racist without telling me you're racist while also trying to explain why racism doesn't exist anymore? Joel Wevin, you're a hateful son of a bitch and a Christian nationalist pastor. Don't fail me now, buddy. Don't fail me now. I believe in you.
This whole witch hunt for white supremacists who hate brown people simply because they're brown. The reason why that's so lucrative, and there are NGOs with millions and millions of dollars for that, is because the white people in America are predominantly, on the whole, not racist. White people in America are, if anything, I think, too trusting, too gullible, toxic empathy. White people in America are like, you know what? I know that this will kill my grandchildren, but can we just import half of the country of hate?
That's racist.
Just to be nice. Like, so not only is racism non-existent, if anything, we could probably use a little bit more racism in America. This whole
when they tell you who they are, believe them. That, frankly, I think America could use a little bit more racism to help balance out our non-racism problem because it's good for the, I don't know. This is Christian nationalism. None of this has anything to do with Christ. But here we are. Next. One of my favorite tropes in Christianity is how a lot of Christians will try to justify things. Justify why they believe something, or justify why this is good, or justify why this is bad. This is a perfect example of that. And I'm just going to giggle like an idiot through this because all I'm going to say is no notes. This is absolute Christian cringe, a perfection.
Toys aren't actually prohibited in the Bible. And when the Bible is silent on something, that leaves a vacuum where lots of people like to insert their opinions. The thing is, we have archaeological evidence of toys being in existence before the Bible was even ever written. And that tells me if God really cared about us using things that were not already attached to our body, he had every opportunity to tell us that when he was writing the Bible, but he didn't. And that makes toys a personal conviction issue. Toys are...
That's right. God, why didn't you talk about dildos in the 10 Commandments? It should have been in there. Anal beads in Leviticus. Oh my gosh. Jonah and the whale and the cock ring. It just never gets old. But I like, it's up to personal conviction. And it's also one of those questions that you stumble upon of like, no, I didn't ask that question, but sure, thanks for answering a question that I didn't need to know the answer for either. But, So, just remember, choose wisely and play nice, boys and girls. So from Christian nationalists who act like dildos to actually people trying to explain to us why dildos may be or maybe not part of God's plan, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the main idea. Let's get to Jeremy Steele and Rituals for Heretics. today I am sitting down with Jeremy Steele, and I'm really excited about this. Jeremy Steele is the skeptic pastor helping more than 200,000 people each week.
You got my wrong bio. We're over 400K now.
You're under 400K now. Oh my gosh. This is what was on the back of the book. So we need to blame those publishers, man.
Man,
Matt, they suck.
Yeah. Oh man, look at that. They used the wrong one. It's all good. We love Keith
Jeremy's
and Matt.
helping more than 400,000 people each week to unlearn a harmful religion and find beliefs and practices that work for them. With over 25 years of experience, he leads Not Church, a community supporting people of all spiritual identities and non-identities through life's hardest moments. He's also the author of How Not to Suck as a Christian, and his new book is Why We're Here Today, Rituals for Heretics, Transcendence Rites for Atheists and People Who Aren't Sure About God. Welcome, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks. It's so great to be here. Also, an important note for people just listening to the audio, we use the same microphone. That is seriously...
Oh, God, goodness gracious. It's kind of like we're Eskimo brothers, but not quite.
I don't even know what that means, but it's hilarious.
Don't look it up.
Okay.
So Jeremy, when I was doing some background research on you, I know that you've been in ministry for a number of years, but I don't think a lot of people know this. I read that you are what inspired Blue Steel.
This is
Zoolander.
True. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, I Ben and I, we go way back, and I experimented maybe with being a male model. I had that look, and yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you did. That's amazing as well too. And I think a lot of people also don't know you inspired Shaquille O'Neal's movie Steele as well.
Right? Yeah,
it's great.
That's a deep cut. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
So we're already off to a wonderful start here. So Jeremy, you are the skeptic pastor.
Yeah, for sure.
How does one become the skeptic pastor? Tell us a little about your journey towards becoming this person who is. You've shed all certainty.
Yeah, no, I count being a skeptic as like one of my basic personality traits. I've always been that way. When I was younger, I lived in the Alabama part of Florida. I'm old as shit, so the internet didn't exist. Mm-hmm. And this was this like little town that was conservative, was evangelical, and it really didn't matter what was on the sign outside of the church. Everything sounded like a Southern Baptist sermon, looked like the same worship service. It's just that some people baptized babies and other people said they were going to hell for baptizing babies. When for me, what being a skeptic means is like, I want to base my beliefs and practices and all that stuff off of data, like reliable data. So when I was younger and I would ask a question like, well, what about evolution? The people that had like graduate degrees in theology in my life would give me the creation pseudoscience answers and books. And so I believed them. And then like, as I got older and was exposed to more information, more people, little by little, I sort of changed my beliefs. I remember the evolution belief. I've been unsure about it for a long time. And I was in college, and it turns out that there was a Southern Baptist evolutionary biologist who was a professor, right? He was a deacon in the Southern Baptist Church, and he was an evolutionary biologist. His name's Dr. Dudley. Shout out to Dr. Dudley. I saw him walking across the campus one day, and I ran up to him, and I was like, Dr. Dudley, I need to know about evolution. And then I had Josh McDowell's book, Answers for Questions or whatever. I had all these things. I had it memorized because I have been fighting on behalf of creation science for years. And so I like went through all the data points that I had memorized, the footprint and all of these things. And so he responded, he was like, Jeremy, none of that has any scientific basis. Like that's not a thing. And he's like, it's not even worth refuting. And I was like, well, okay, then help me understand. You are a Southern Baptist deacon and an evolutionary biologist. Like, how are you both of those things? And he said something that blew my mind and sort of changed all kinds of things for me. He said, I just feel like science has a set of tools to investigate reality, and theology and religion has a different set of tools And so if you're looking for religious answers, you use those tools. And if you're looking for scientific answers, you use those tools. And like my mind was blown because I've always loved science. When you were a skeptic, you really loved science. And that was it. Like creation science was dropped like what would a funny thing be to drop? Just like Stuart, you gotta come up.
Drop it like it's a wet turd. Drop it like
it's a wet turd.
Okay,
yeah, drop it like it's a wet turd.
Okay.
And I kept going, and as I became a youth pastor when I was like 19, and was still very much in the evangelical world, that universe. Then eventually I went to seminary, and my seminary, it was evangelical, but it had some of the leading scholars, like biblical scholars and that kind of stuff, as professors. So they taught you real things. It's a scholarly consensus. They taught you the real tools. And once I had the real tools, once I could read academic articles, I was like, wait, half of this stuff is bullshit. And so I just kept changing my beliefs. And that's, for me, like the core belief that I have as a skeptic is I am wrong. Like, I am wrong on probably half of what I believe. I just don't know which half. And so whenever data comes in, you evaluate it based, against what you believe. And, if the data is strong enough, you just change, right?
Yeah, but that's insane. That's everything that we've been taught against doing.
Right.
You're doing it wrong. You're doing it absolutely wrong, Jeremy.
I am 100% doing it wrong. And especially the further back you go into my life, the pastors in those times, each would get progressively more upset that I was doing this.
Asking those questions and things like that. My biggest question, so you said you're like Florida Bama? Is that kind of, you were raised in that neck of the woods? How did you escape that without any kind of accent?
I never wanted to have an accent.
Okay.
My mom thought of the Southern accent as like ignorant sounding. And so she would correct me all the time. I remember at one point we were going to go watch a movie, and I said, "Oh, are we going to the theater?" And she was like, "No, it's theater." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "Theater. It's pronounced theater." And she like made me repeat it. And yeah, so I escaped talking like this.
No, I did as well. I'm born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, as well. So
yeah.
I think it's similar to that, where I've had issues where I'll travel back and people would be like, "Well, how is it being around this neck of the woods for you?" And I'd be like, "What do you mean? I was born here." And people would be like, "No, you were not. You were not born here." Like, okay. Thank you. Okay, so you grew up questioning, you grew up like searching and not being. But I love that too, because I think that so many people grew up, the certainty was what gave them like that security blanket. And you're just some sort of you're an anomaly that was running and saying like, this is uncomfortable to me. Like undue certainty is uncomfortable. And so then you go into ministry, and so then how do we get to like not church?
Oh, yeah.
Like
so I go into ministry. Eventually, my whole life I've had my whole adult life, most of my friends have been atheists because Christians are just weird. And I've been really, I haven't ever known if God really existed. Like I haven't been sure about that. And I've actually said that in like my congregations over the years, and it's led to really great conversations. I've always had people that are asking deep questions, and I hate the term, but deconstructing in my life. And so my undergrad's in communication studies. I do freelance communication articles for people. And somebody asked me to do an article on TikTok. So I took a month to just watch TikTok, try to figure out what was going on, like why one author or one creator had like 1 million followers, and then this New York Times bestselling author had none. And so my plan was to release 10 pieces of content and test out my hypotheses, because I'm a skeptic, right? I love the scientific method, and then write my article. So one of the core things on social media, especially TikTok, is that you have to appear just very, very authentic, right? Exactly who you are. And you have to have some sort of differentiating factor about yourself. So Dan McClellan is a Bible scholar who is something like offering the scholarly study of religion to normal people, something like that. So for me, I've never been sure if God exists. I'm a skeptic and I'm a pastor. People have always been intrigued, confused, angry at that. And so I was like, okay, that's how I will show up here. And so I released one video. I can't remember the first or the second video, but I had 1,500 followers. 10,000 was really close. And then somewhere around 30,000, people started asking to have some sort of community space where they could talk like the regular commenters. And so I formed this spiritual community. And it is, we've got atheists, agnostics, Celtic mystics, Christians, like every religious stream you can think of, except for Muslim. Not yet, but I assume that will come. And they're all in this place where they are wanting to explore spirituality. They're interested in spirituality. They also want a community that is there to just be a community, share pictures of our pets, and like be there for people in hard times. Like several weeks ago, somebody went in the hospital, and they posted, and people kept checking in on them, and we have a couple of Zoom meetings a week because there are people all over the world involved, and so you've got to have different times. Yeah, and the reason it's called Not Church is because early on somebody said it's like church. It's like all the things I miss from church, but nobody's telling me I'm going to hell because I've got a tarot deck on my bedside table. So, and this is the weirdest thing. It is a unique place for me in the modern world. Because I've never had to moderate. I've never had to boot anybody. Everybody shows up there in this posture of support and curiosity. And even when they deeply disagree, it's not a fight. It's not something that people are trying to win. Honestly, people will post stuff from a religious stream that is just incredibly opposite from somebody else. And the person will respond and say, I don't understand what you mean by this word. Can you explain it? And then they'll say, oh yeah, this is what this is. And the person's response will generally be something like, oh wow, that is a word I needed to describe my own spiritual life, even though their religious streams are in direct contradiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've never experienced this. And the other thing is that most of us in there have some sort of religious trauma around being manipulated out of money by churches. And so we don't ask for donations. It's like a pay for what you get model. So $3 a month on Patreon gets you in, but God's also not a capitalist. So if somebody can't swing $3 a month, they just DM me and I let them in for free. But yeah, I don't know. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It sounds like that you've been able to like create this confluence of many different streams of thoughts and community together, trying to extract lots of, the parts of church, I guess, that we kind of grew up with that were important, but also casting aside some of the parts that were not so great as well in this.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're doing this also in the book here with your rituals for heretics. And so let's talk about
look.
I'm
going to hold it up. I'm going to promote it. Yeah, doesn't it look like I told Matthew that I wanted it to look kind of like somebody uncovered some ancient manuscript, and I wanted a tree of life in the middle. It's a symbol of so many different religions, Christianity, Wicca, like all kinds of stuff. So people are like, anyway, I'm a heretic. It's fine. I'm clearly a heretic. I've been a heretic for a long time, but it's been verified daily in commenters on social media. So I'm a certified heretic.
Okay, that is how the certification process happens.
For sure.
It's in the comment section always. So yeah, so what led you to this place? Because we are in a place right now where the world is very fucked, where there's bad information that is just being just jettisoned at us at a regular clip, and it's oftentimes hard to find your grounding and your even breath. And so
absolutely.
So what led you to write this now?
Well, one of the things people can do is they can schedule like one-on-one Zooms with me, and it's interesting. So I've had one-on-one conversations with people as a pastor my whole life, but for somebody to reach out to a creator scheduled time, like, is only the most extreme things. So, I think like the last 4 months of last year I had like 50 of these. But a common theme is that people are leaving their faith, and there's a loss, right? There's things that were meaningful to them that they did that either are now triggering or they just are done with it. And the more I heard those stories, the more I just felt disappointed for them, because like for thousands of years, people have been meeting deep psychological needs through religious rituals. They've been refined and honed. And like, if something wasn't going to work, it just didn't get passed on. Right. And so when you leave religion, when you leave, or when you are an atheist, whatever, you lose out on that huge mass of human knowledge. And psychologists have studied these rituals, and like the studies are like, yep, that works. This is what's happening. And so what I do in the book is I take rituals and meditation practices from all kinds of different religious traditions. I remove the God part out, but leave the psychological work and the method that work is being done, accomplished in the ritual. And so that people can put whatever they believe or don't believe about God back in. And the early readers have been really positive, said like, oh my gosh, I needed this. Like I needed ritual back in my life, but I couldn't access it anymore.
So speak more to that, because there's that occurrence that you're kind of scratching at, that like when we lose ritual but don't replace it, and that idea that we continue to crave structure even though we reject religion. Like, what is this doing for us psychologically?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. And each ritual, it's got a little bit of background on like the different religions, because a lot of these rituals are practiced in a lot of different religions. And then it goes into the like actual psychology, right? If you like to read words like vagus nerve and parasympathetic nervous system, you're going to really love that. But what's interesting is that the ritual does really, really important things psychologically in general. Each one does its own thing specifically. So rituals do, one of the things that they do is they sort of bypass your overthinking, right? You spiral, rumination, all of that kind of stuff. But when you begin to do something right out in the world, something for your hands to feel and do, something for your senses to notice, like when you move your body with intention, your mind follows, right? It sort of tricks your mind into clarity. Another thing that they do sort of overall psychologically is they can mark a moment, right? So if you have things like breakup, a new job, a death, you can end up in this place with this sort of unfinished grief. You can get into a place where you're stuck. And rituals can do this thing where it sort of gives your life a timestamp, right? That ritual signals to your brain, like, this mattered. And now we're going to start moving to the other side of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this physicality, this like expression of it in the world does that for you. And then it also like does things with your subconscious. So psychologists will say, like, when you symbolically act out change, like burning something, burying it, whatever, your unconscious gets the message, right? It starts looking for closure and healing, or there's all kinds of really interesting things. Like one of the practices is something that's called smudging in the world of religion. I'm trying to find this chapter. So the chapters aren't labeled with the rituals. They're labeled with like what they're accomplishing. So this chapter is struggling with the harm. Or no, sorry. Nope, that's not it. Okay, let me just look at the table of contents because
Isn't it amazing when people ask you questions about your own book as well, too? Because people are like, wow, wasn't this great about this chapter here? And when I've been in the same situation, I'm like, what chapter are you talking about?
Yeah. So, okay. So this one, it's called living in a space that causes pain. So smudging is this idea, this like burning sage, something like that, and using the smoke to cleanse the space. And it's used in all kinds of different indigenous cultures, First Nations, even hoodoo and voodoo. And the idea is it's in the religious concept, like it's removing the evil, removing whatever it is from the space. Because you know that like spaces psychologically can hold memory for you when you enter that space. here's the interesting thing. So psychological research really confirms that this kind of rituals work. So when you look at studies in trauma therapy and like the cognitive neurosciences, gestures, especially those involving movement and sense and multisensory focus, can create real changes in the ways memories are actually encoded in the brain, right? It allows the brain to like reprocess emotion, reduce its intensity, and sort of create an embodied sense of closure. Like smell specifically is tied to memory through something called the olfactory bulb, which connects directly to the amygdala and the hippocampus, which are the centers of emotional memory and learning. So this is why certain scents can like trigger memories. Why what happens with something like this is memories can become isolated in that emotional center of the brain. And these rituals help move it from that to a storage part that's more logical, more processing. So what happens in this ritual is you light the smoke and you say, this smoke carries away what no longer belongs here. And then you move to the places in that space where you have memories, bad memories, and you recall the memories and you say something like, this sadness doesn't belong to me anymore, or I release the fear I carried in this room. I let go of the story that kept repeating here. And you breathe in, you watch the smoke symbolically, and then you sort of go all the way around back to the threshold where you started. And then you do it again, and you're sort of doing the opposite. You're inviting what you want. So let this room hold soulfulness. Let this kitchen feed joy, whatever it is. And you go to that each place. Then you go back to the threshold where you say something else. You open a window to let the things out, and you sort of imagine that all of this stuff is going out the window. And this really helps that kind of a situation. But you remove the God from it. Right. And if you want to believe that it's the Holy Spirit working, great. If you want to believe that it is energies or whatever, it all works.
But I love that you're able to pull God out of that in those situations, because that can be so triggering to so many people that have been through trauma, etc. And for me, I was just talking with my therapist yesterday. My therapist meeting to me is like that. He was telling me something to the degree of like, you can't analyze your way out of trauma.
Yeah,
like
no,
I will try to like overthink it or try to feel it and learn all about this, and just the act of doing these things, just the act of walking these out, are the important things for the brain. It's you're kind of doing something that's not just up here. You're doing something physical. You're bringing something physical into the world, and I think it's a beautiful thing, especially for those a lot of us that have left the church.
Yeah,
and we left behind all of these rituals that, even though we can say the meaning behind them are bullshit now, but there was the connection to what we were doing, the connection to community, the connection to what meaning we were imbuing upon it.
Yeah.
Without saying we were doing it for God.
Right. Talk about triggering. And this is the one that probably makes me the most heretical, right? For Christians, communion, right? It's the sort of most central sacred ritual to Christianity. And it is really triggering for a lot of people. Not just necessarily, I mean, there's just layers of it. There's the blood, there's the violence, there's then whatever happened to you in church. But the symbolism within communion is being connected. So the theology is that the communion table is not the table of the church, it is the table of Jesus. And through this ritual, through taking this food, we are connected to every Christian who ever has been, every Christian who ever will be, through Jesus, right? And that sense of connection is powerful. And so the other thing that's really interesting is there is these sort of movement, the structure of communion that is the same really from tradition to tradition, where there's this sort of sense of welcoming to the table. Then there's a confession, and then there's this ritual. And so what I did, this needs to focus on the sense of connection through food, right? That's exactly the core of this. And that at some point, at some other time, we can go through the psychological side of that. But we really are connected through food. So we'll die, our bodies will turn into dirt, our molecules will become part of the earth. And then from that dirt, plants will grow, some of which that we eat. And some of which the animals eat that we may choose to eat and consume. So those molecules become the food, and then we eat them, and it becomes part of us, and then we die. So through food, we are literally connected to every being and plant and all of that on the planet that ever was and ever will be. And because we are connected, that is this accountability to use our lifespan to move that world forward. Right? To be the best version of ourselves. And so in the book, the ritual starts with this welcoming, and then it starts with a time of like, where has my life gotten off track? Where have I stopped being the best version of myself? And then you have this ritual of eating something and drinking something and focusing on the way it connects you to everything. And I actually did that on a live stream a week or so ago, and somebody that I knew was on the live stream. He's actually a pagan high priest, which is interesting, but he grew up in Christianity, and he texted me afterwards, said like, I really needed that. We talked on the phone for like a half an hour about how powerful that was for him to, in some ways, reclaim communion as a practice, because it was something that was important to him. But when you are a pagan high priest, that's really not your bag anymore.
That's true.
And yeah, but it was really beautiful to see, like, to get a firsthand account of the way that really helped him.
It's beautiful how this crosses different boundaries as well too. All of this, that this is more just a human thing. You reminded me of my wife. When our kids were younger, she loved doing a Seder every year as well, too. And it just, as not even...
And she loved being a mom at that point, too.
Yeah. Back when she enjoyed being a mom. No, but for it was some of it was just the idea of having a place where you're talking about, like, let's remember where we've come from. Let's look towards where we're going. And it's a reflective place. And also food and taste and touch, and you're engaging the senses.
Yeah.
And it's being transcendent.
I love it. And because it's all based on this Exodus story, which didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
But this Exodus story of feeling oppressed, feeling like you're stuck, and then God delivering you from that, only to have you get stuck again. And the focus of it is passing on that story to the next generation, which is really interesting because when you look at developmental psychology, the older you get, the more core the need is for you to pass on things that are valuable to you to the next generation. It's like a very core psychological need. Like when you're a teenager, that core need is to understand who you are and your role in the world. As you get older, it is, how is my life going to pass on to the next generation? It's just, I love it. It's so great.
Yeah. So for those that are struggling with the way the world is today, this constant stream of bad news, oppressive news, ridiculous news, things that make us rage and feel depressed all at the same time. What would be a ritual that you would recommend for folks to be able to get off the computer, get off your phone, and go do something that that can remind you that you're not all of this bit of bad news?
Yeah, so let me just, no, that's not the one. Yeah, something I think can be helpful, because there can be a sense of fatalism about all of this and despair and the idea that like things can't get better. There's a ritual in here that's called hoping something good will take root. And what you do in this ritual is that you spend some time reflecting on what your hopes are for yourself, for the world, whatever it is. And then you write those things down. You write those things down outside, and then you go to a plant, or if you are in an apartment, a plant that you have in your house. You roll up the piece of paper and you put it in the ground and cover it up, so it's sort of part of the where the roots are going to be. And you sort of say some words out loud, but but this is a ritual that is like an ongoing ritual, because what you have done is you have anchored your hope and your desire for something good in a physical location, in a symbol that is in a symbol of what you're hoping to happen, which is it to grow. And so every time you tend that plant, you return to that thought and that hope. And the tending of the plant reminds you also that it is not something that happens automatically, that it is something that you have to tend and work on in the world. So I think that is a really, really powerful ritual for that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I've really been enjoying going through the book too.
Great.
This is one of those books that you don't just like sit and just read.
Right. No.
It's a processing that you're walking through. And I've been loving that. And so going through this, making me think of other people I know that and who've lost ritual. And so like, and you deal in this space with folks that have left church or left certainty and left this. So if
every single day
has left church or left whatever that community or group that they were tied to and feels like they've lost more than just belief, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them you have. Like, I think that one of the things, especially in the more fundamentalist evangelical world, that you are taught, not explicitly, right? There's this idea that there's a curriculum, but then there's a curriculum under the curriculum, the things that are taught implicitly. And one of the things that you are taught is to distrust your feelings, to distrust your gut.
Yeah.
There's that verse, the heart is deceitful above all else, which is not what that's talking about. That's complete bullshit when they're like, oh, if you feel like this, your heart is leading you away. Fuck that. So first is to say, yes, you have lost something. And when you lose something that is important to you, something that has been helpful to you, you experience grief. And so you will have anger. You'll be angry at what's happened. There will be times where you'll try to make a bargain with yourself of like, well, maybe I could go back and I could do this one thing, but I could not do these others. You will experience depression, right? Of just like, especially if you're in a place where so much of your social system revolved around the church, there is a real sense of depression that people can experience. So the other thing that I'd say is like, allow yourself to feel those things. Those things are normal. Those things are natural, and they come in waves. So the way your brain works with intense things like grief is it stops you from, most people, it will stop you from having like a psychotic break. And a therapist described me, it's like whatever happened in, whoever it was that you lost or whatever the loss was, it was like it shook up a Coke bottle. Right. And your brain is the thing that like opens up and lets some of the carbonation out and then closes it so that it doesn't overflow, and then opens it out and then it closes it. And so like, just give yourself permission to feel and to know that those feelings are validating your perception. And it's important to think through and talk to other people about like, what is it that you lost? Right? Did you were you fascinated by the Bible and you loved to study the Bible and now you can't deal with the Bible? Was it a sense of a supportive community that when shit went down, somebody was there for you? Was it experiencing an ecstatic state, that psychological state? I don't know what's happening. Sorry, my phone is ringing and
your phone was having an ecstatic state.
Yeah, and it popped up on my iPad that is what's making me see you. Sorry, let me go back. Were you missing having the experience of being in an ecstatic state? This is a psychological state that is wonderful and really psychologically helpful. Like, what is it that you are missing? And then begin to find ways to try to not replace it, but meet that need.
You're trying to reverse engineer what you were going, kind of. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But, and then the sort of last thing that I would say to them is you also need to be aware of what's going on in your brain, right? So when let's just say you were part of a charismatic church, right? There is this format where there's a preacher, there's expectations, there's all of this stuff, and it leads you to this ecstatic state. And it will, the more you do it, the quicker you will get there, the more deep that is. And the reason for that is something that goes on in your brain. So when you have things that happen over and over again, the pathways between the neurons begin to get coated with a substance called myelin. And the process is called myelination. And so the more you do it, the more those pathways become myelinated. And what myelin does is it increases the efficiency of the neurons moving back and forth. And so that's why the more you do something, the better you get at it. The first time you play a violin, you suck. The 10,000th hour that you play the violin, you are a master. But in this context, what that means is when you try something new to bring you to a place to meet that need, many times it will feel less effective. That does not mean it is less effective.
Mm-hmm.
If it feels like you've got a taste of it, that's probably a thing that's going to work for you. You just like you went to church over and over and over again, you have to keep practicing that. And the more you practice that, the more those neurons will be myelinated, the better that experience will be for you, and the faster you will get to whatever it is that you are looking for.
No, that's an excellent point that you bring too. For a lot of us that have been raised around the church, this is like this indoctrination, this baptizing into these rituals had been happening for so long. We haven't ever, we don't remember. We were like, oh, this is my first stages of this. How did I feel in these learning stages? We've done like the 10,000 reps without even questioning it. But when we start journeying, especially as adults, learning things as adults often make us feel like aggravated children. It's almost like having to go back to like stumbling through things again that we don't expect. And that's that. I love that. I love that. Now, for you, Jeremy, like we have, I love the rituals that you're laying out. What are ways that you unplug from the world? And it can be less than beautiful ones. This could be,
Well, I outside, like I really enjoy some of the different meditation practices in the book. I'm ADD. When I first started meditation, I felt like I was a failure because the only thing that I knew was like the sitting still and clearing your mind, neither of which you're good at when you have ADD. I've gotten better at that. But outside of the sort of more spirituality kinds of things, the two things that I do most often is I go dancing and I go to karaoke. I go to karaoke usually more than once a week. And those things, that it does it for me.
Okay, fine. What is your go-to karaoke song now that you've dropped this one in here?
Well, see, now this is a question where you know whether or not somebody is really serious about karaoke, right? So if you ask somebody that question, they just bam, give you a song, they don't know what they're doing. So
teach me more. Tell me more.
Yes. No, I will, Padawan. So you go into the room, you've got to like scan the room, figure out who it is. Is it middle-aged white people?
Okay.
If that's the case, I'm going to do 3 a.m. by Matchbox 20. If it's a bunch of Broadway gays, we're doing My Shot or You'll Be Back from Hamilton. If it is a bunch of Latino people, then I'm going to be doing Smooth by Santana. And if it's later and everybody is in some level of being trashed, it's Rehab by Amy Winehouse.
But that you kind of have your own like liturgy that you're moving through to this. I love this. It's very beautiful in it. I love that. See, this is as a Padawan. See, I would just I love how that your experience. It's not just for you. It's also how you're experiencing with the crowd as well too. This is
Well, because you want people to be into it.
You still got the pastor in you, man. You still got it in there. Yeah,
I'll tell you, there is nothing like last week. I was the place that I go is my like favorite gay bar. It has karaoke every single night, and if there's a drag show or drag bingo or whatever, it happens after that. But the room was filled with Broadway gays, many of whom were from out of town. So one of my best songs is My Shot, and I sang that shot. I sang that song, and there is nothing like. There's a part that's like, and like it being so loud that it's as loud as the speakers. Like there's nothing better than that. And you want to talk about like getting into an ecstatic state like you do in one of these charismatic worship services. That's it. Same thing happens when I go to one of the places where I like to dance and it's packed with people. One of them is it's another gay bar. And there was a night where it was packed with people. and the DJ was just playing gay bangers, right? Like the Village People, then Chapel Roan, then Gaga, then Elton John. And like, it was loud. People were jumping. And it was this experience. Like, and that one, I will tell you, I don't think I walked out of there just sort of like buzzing off of the room and I realized on my way back to my car, I think that was the most spiritual experience of my whole life, including going to the Brownsville Revival in Pensacola.
Wow,
right?
That's hard to replace. But no, I love that. I mean, because there's a certain call response as well too.
Yeah, for sure.
That as well. I mean, participation, and you guys are all together in that moment. The congregation that you have. I love that. I love that. I love that. So, Jeremy, the book is fantastic. Rituals for Heretics.
Thank you so much.
Transcendent Rites for Atheists and People Who Aren't Sure About God. It's available on Amazon or wherever else you're wanting to buy books these days. Where do people find you, Jeremy? How do people stalk you? How do people hop into Not Church? How do people do all of these things?
So I'm Skeptic Pastor on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. And if you want to become part of Not Church, we do that through Patreon. So you just go to patreon.com/skepticpastor. Yeah, that's right. Patreon.com/skepticpastor. And it's $3 a month. You can get in. If you can't swing $3 a month, you just DM me. And, you know, if you like a personalized signed copy of the book, you can go to my website, skepticpastor.com/rituals, and you can buy one for me. And if it's just that you want me to get more money off the book, that's also an acceptable reason to buy one from my website.
Love it. I love it. Jeremy, thank you so much for your time. You guys should buy the book. If not, you're missing out. And I can't wait to have you back on the show again. Jeremy, it's always fun when we hang out together.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. It's great.
The end times are upon us. The signs are happening. The end is near, but don't panic. You may have missed the rapture, but there's still time to prepare for what comes next. Disasters, plagues, celestial malfunctions. Consider them friendly reminders. Now's the time to prepare. From homemade hazmat suits to heavenly currency and trustworthy prophets, this guide has you covered. Because when the heavens open and the world melts, belief alone won't save you. The Tribulation Survival Guide. How to stay alive when everything else is dead. Available now.